Emmy-nominated producer Frank Payton, and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, an Emmy Award-winning actress of Head of the Class, Khrystyne Haje.
My brother. Uh-oh. My brother.
What is it, my brother? Hi!
Where the fuck are you? It's June. Don't fucking tell me you got snowed in again.
Mountains, brother. The mountains. It's very unpredictable, the weather. 25 inches of snow. What is it, 87 down there now?
What's your story today?
COVID. I got diagnosed. Positive.
You sure it wasn't the monkeypox? Because if anybody would have the monkeypox, it would be you.
Pox on you. Never mind, pox on me.
Wait. How many times can one man have COVID in his life? And how many times can you give it to your wife?
I don't think I have no symptoms. No symptoms whatsoever. But tested positive. I'm ready to get a melanoma cut off my head, which is like par for the course. I do 6 of them a month. And they told me they wouldn't take me. They told me I got COVID. And they gave me the bum's rush, too. Get out the back door. They pushed me out.
and can I admire your forehead? I don't think we've ever seen it before. We've always had it covered with a hat.
I give my foreskin instead of my forehead. How about that? You can admire that. Give me something to do.
Well, our guest...
She put on a hat? Yeah. I don't think anybody's ever seen me without a hat on.
No, without a hat on.
No pun intended.
Yeah, pretty funny. Well, one thing that's not funny is our guest today, Emmy Award-winning actress Khrystyne Haje. She'll be joining us in a few minutes. But more of this sterling repartee.
It's a bad thing. Hey, I got a good one for you. A guest that we had on the show, comic Chris Cope. He had a thing on Twitter, right? I don't know if you guys can see this, but all the link said was on Twitter. He put up, there's more bullshit in this story than there is that could fill Grand Canyon, right? And then so naturally I had to follow the link to the story. And the story is this. I don't know if you can catch it. I guess you can't. There's no way. But the story is, Fox News said the link between marijuana and mass shootings.
Oh, my God.
And Cope smokes like a chimney. That's all he does. He's always got the link between marijuana and mass shootings. It's good. That's another take.
Well, how about the Republicans said that no one can lie to Congress anymore?
You're not allowed to lie. How is anybody in Congress, either side, going to open their mouth if they can't lie?
Yeah,
Democrats or Republicans.
Well, that was the point he was making. He said you can't lie to Congress anymore. But he was in serious. He was being serious.
And I swear to God, this is the solution. They want the solution to gun control. I got it. I swear to God. You want sensible laws about guns? Take all the guards out of Congress. Take all the metal detectors out of Congress. Let anybody in there with a gun. Let them do what they want, and you'll see how quick we get sensible gun laws.
Starting with the NRA at their national rally, where no guns
allowed.
allowed.
Let them have a circular firing squad. Let them just have a ball with themselves. Let them all bang each other up and just see how quick we get gun laws. That'll work.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, it's like the term limit things we keep talking about. You're not going to get it because it doesn't benefit them. But if it affects them, you'll see how quick we get gun laws.
You see all this stuff on social media about gun laws, and you realize it's easier to buy a gun than it is to get a driver's license.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, I don't know why. We all talk about the NRA and the money that they have influencing the elections and how these guys are afraid to vote against the NRAs. And they primary these guys. Like they'll take a guy and who's maybe right wing, but he's not radical right wing. And then they'll if he doesn't do everything the NRA says, they'll primary and put all the money to his opponent, right? But why is anybody surprised about this? This is the way the country works. The oil companies are registered, they're monitored by the oil companies.
Stop hitting your computer.
Every corporation in America, they control the laws. I mean, the drug companies control our drug laws. The gun lobby controls our gun laws. The oil lobby controls our energy laws. It's money. It's a corrupt system.
Yeah, but oil money's not killing people like drug money and gun laws are.
No, but when you read stuff like that, I think there's in the whole Gulf of Mexico, I don't know, there's 17,000 oil rigs or something. There's 8 guys that are supposed to be safety monitors for the 17,000 oil rigs. And the oil companies think it's too much.
You're looking remarkably good today. What did you get?
Remarkably, you want to slow dance?
Did you get a haircut?
I told you, my wife just gave me a haircut. My wife takes care of that.
Wow,
She does all. She does my hair. She does my pedicures, manicures, manscaping. She does all that. I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even know what manscaping was. My bush looked like somebody threw a hand grenade into a haystack. I didn't know. I didn't know you were supposed to clean that stuff up.
Look at that.
My wife said, "What are you kidding me with this thing? Whoa. It looked like a barbershop floor on a Saturday night when she got done."
You're too much. You're too.
Oh.
Would you stop hitting the table?
I can't help it. I'm demonstrative.
Don't worry about
I'm
it.
demonstrative.
You're
Hey, I do look a little red. You say he rosing me up, or am I dying? What's going on?
You're dying now. That's for sure. We're both dying just right now.
Frank, I want you to know that there's some real substance below. You know, I'm not all tits, teeth, and tan. You know?
Hey, that's another name for. That's an alternate name for the podcast. Tits, teeth, and can.
Oh, I gotta tell you,
you're no can at all.
I am starting to get a pretty good rack here. I gotta tell you.
Oh, please. You know what? I've had enough of you. Khrystyne's here. So, Derek, can we bring on Emmy Award-winning actress and my longtime friend, Khrystyne Haje? How you doing, Khrystyne?
Hi, I'm great. I'm so happy to get to see you in real life. As the kids say.
Real life.
Yeah, IRL.
In real life. And that's the inimitable Billy O'Connor, who is COVID bound on a mountain in Valley Village or something. No, Pine Mountain.
Familiar skyline of Pine Mountain Club, California. The familiar skyline. I'm sure you've seen it.
I know he said he's got COVID, but I think he's got monkeypox.
Pox on you and all the monkeys. I just found out. I just got an email. My wife just told me I don't have COVID.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I swear to God.
These are great lengths to avoid us, Billy.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I walk in to get a cancer removed, and you would think you're in a doctor's office, a specialist,
Right.
takes the swab, comes back and tells me I got COVID, gives me the bums rush out the back door, and then he just sent me an email I don't have COVID.
Good.
So I could have came down.
Good. Well, we weren't chancing it.
That's right.
We weren't chancing it for sure.
The bad news is I have malaria and monkeypox.
Forget the cancer. Like, we just blow past that. But yeah, okay.
So,
I get that.
Khrystyne.
So anyway, wonderful to see you, Khrystyne. Lovely to meet you. It's great having you in the studio.
Thank
I wish
you
I was
so
there.
much. I wish you were here too. But I'm glad you're COVID, cancer, and pox free. So we start with a victory. What a great way to get going.
Great way to get going on a nice light note.
Yes,
We all lost a few people at Dunkirk. Let's put that behind us.
please.
So, Khrystyne, you started modeling at 14.
I did. Yes.
What was that like?
It was wild. Basically, when I was 13, my mom told me I needed to get a job after school if I wanted to go to the movies or the mall and all that. I was going to have to earn my own, extracurricular. And she was thinking that I would get a job at the gelato shop that had just opened, or maybe like be an usher at the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
But we had moved to LA and we were living in Studio City, and the freaking Studio City kids were so savvy. I was the same height I am now, but 1,000 pounds thinner. I was this tall, gangly kid. And 7th graders and 8th graders were telling me, "You're so tall and skinny, you should model. You're so tall and skinny, you should model." And kids are so cruel. Because I'm a redhead, I'd been mostly subjected to teasing. So when they told me that I could do something, I believed them. And so when my mom said, "You'll have to get a job, what do you want to do?" I said, well, I was thinking I would try modeling. She was like, oh, I thought you'd scoop ice cream. How do you model? And I was like, I don't know. But my brother knew a guy who was a photographer. I took pictures with him. Turns out that an agency from Paris came to visit that photographer, and they saw my proofs. And then they called my mother and they said, your daughter, she should come to Paris. She will work every day. And my mom said, she's in 8th grade. So we ultimately, we just said no. And then my very best friend, because my mom said, well, maybe she could go in the summer. And my best friend said, what's up with the modeling thing? And my mom said, oh yeah, well, she can't miss school, and we'll just see if they'll go in the summer. And Karenina said, I'm sure there's a lot of girls who want to model in Paris. I wouldn't wait till the summer if I were you. And a little light bulb went off in my mom's head, and we worked it out with my school, and we left right away.
Wow.
By Valentine's Day, we were on the Avenue de Villiers, and so I modeled in Paris for a while, and did school remotely, and had an incredible time. And then I would come back in makeup school, and then go back to Paris and model. And then I just didn't want to miss school anymore. I'm one of those kids that loves school. And so I told them I wasn't coming back. But Nina Blanchard, who was a big modeling agency at the time in LA, she was interested in me. And so I thought, okay, great. I can go to my school and just work here. She had me get emancipated, because in Europe, they didn't care if I was underage and working. But in America. Why
don't you explain to our people what, and Billy, what emancipated means? Well, he's a New York City Fire Department.
No, you're right. I
doesn't know what emancipated is.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
So I became an emancipated minor, meaning that even though I was 14 and a half at the time, I could sign my own. I was legally an adult. So it's a court system thing you have to go through, but my mom supported it. I'm a single mom, so we only needed her to weigh in. But you have to prove certain things, that you can support yourself, that you're responsible, that you can live on your own, et cetera, et cetera. And I was able to do all of that. And then I got parental support. And so at 14 and a half, I was a legal adult. I could sign my own contracts and work as an adult, which was great for working, but not great for school. Because then I started working more and more. And if you're a kid, if you're a minor in school in show business, they have to provide tutoring and classes. And I had to do it all on my own. So it was a bit of a scramble.
But Khrystyne, let me ask you, if you're emancipated at that age, I mean, obviously it has its advantages. Yeah. I mean, isn't there like a lot of times where mothers that have child stars are controlling, they control their contracts, they control everything else? Wouldn't it be that'd be the move for every child star, I would think, they want to be emancipated?
Definitely not the move for every. No, it's a unique choice.
And you should be especially mature to do that. And Khrystyne was always especially mature.
Oh, geez, thanks. But also, just on a superficial note, I was tall and looked older than I was. Right. And show business, they want you to be 18, play 16, be 18, play 14. I was 14 and I was auditioning for 19-year-olds.
Or in Dan and Tony's case, be 29 and play
play 15. Right. I head of the class. Yeah, it was, that when the head of the class breakdown came through, it said be 18, play whatever, 15 or 16. Mm-hmm. And because I was legally 18, I could audition for it. But I was truly in high school. So whether it, in my mind, I had the advantage because I was waking up and going to school, regular public school. I went to North Hollywood High in the mornings. And then I would go to report to set at Warner Brothers.
Billy went to a lot of schools high.
Yeah, I did, Frank. Yeah. A lot of schools high. That's
I felt really connected to my high school experience. And so I would go to real school in the morning and what I called fantasy school in the afternoon.
So how did
But
how did Head of the Class? Well, were you doing acting? Obviously, you were doing acting
was.
before prior to Head of the Class.
My first like big network job was a movie of the week, and of all things, I did it with Brian Robbins.
Really?
Yes. He taunted me. He was like the bad guy in school, and he called me out and called me names and all of this stuff. But that was my first big job. We shot in Santa Barbara.
And whatever became of him? I
just
haven't.
crime of
I'm
innocence.
not sure. I think we should do a little where is he now?
Where is he now?
Exactly.
He's the president of
Paramount.
Paramount.
Isn't that
Wow.
awesome?
Yeah. And then
Brian was always a go-getter and forward-thinking.
yeah, he sure was.
Yeah.
Is this crime of innocence,
Yes.
Khrystyne? Yes,
Billy,
okay.
come on.
Sure.
What kind of research did you do?
He's
Little bit.
Wow.
So was crime? Let me ask you a question. Not have anything to do with my research.
Okay.
At 15 years old, living in Paris, is that
Yes.
not 4 times better education than you would ever get in North Hollywood High?
Well, except for that I was just working. So it was, common sense education and world travel education, broaden your horizons, but it wasn't, math and
Right.
but my teachers were amazing. My English teacher, she had me do a report on Michelangelo. And so on the weekends, my mom and I would travel to find his different works. So we went to Rome, to Firenze. I had to find his unfinished Pieta. And it made everything come alive for me. And my history teacher had me read Is Paris Burning, which was when the Nazis were coming through and trying to
so you could see everything firsthand.
Exactly. And it brought it for a 14 and a half, 15-year-old, it brought everything to life. And it made the history so much more interesting to me. So those teachers did an incredible job.
I definitely get that. Before I went to Italy, I read Michelangelo's Agony and the Ecstasy, which is a terrific story about Michelangelo.
Yes.
And you want to see all those places. You want to revisit all those spots.
And when you hear the Medici as a young girl, that he had the romance with the Medici
Yeah.
girl, and then to go to their palace or go to that church to look for the catacombs, all of that is in that Irving Stone's book.
Yeah, terrific book.
And that one of my teachers made me read that.
Wow. Yeah,
So-
that's what I mean. I to me, travel is the real educator. I mean, the broadener, and like you get to appreciate what you're reading. I mean, I would never have read that book if I wasn't going to Italy.
No,
would you
and just
stop-
sitting in Studio City and reading it is not the same.
Would you stop
No.
gesturing with your hands? You're making me seasick. With the
Let
computer.
me gesture hypnotically, Frank.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I like a hypnotic gesture.
Mandrake.
So after that movie, you did Head of the Class, or how did you?
No, I did a bunch of after school specials.
Okay.
So I was having luck. I kept, like, for Crime of Innocence, I auditioned for the lead, and it came down between me, Shawnee Smith, and one other girl. Shawnee got the lead. They gave the other girl her best friend role and me the bad girl role. And then after that, I started booking after school specials, which sadly aren't on it so much anymore, but were a big deal at the time.
Mhm.
And great directors. I worked with Tommy Schlamme, and really good people were doing those. And I'm not sure what the thing was I had done before Head of the Class, but I had a fair amount of credits
Right.
when I auditioned.
So
for the
you
show.
were literally getting on the job training as an
I
actress.
was. Yes, absolutely. It's my favorite. I'm a set junkie. If I could be anywhere in the world all the time, it would be on set. My priorities should have shifted by now, but sadly they haven't.
So how did the audition for Head of the Class come about? And take us through that process.
My agent just sent me on a role. I met with Mindy Marin, who was the casting director. I read for the role of Leslie Vega's role, Maria.
Mhm.
And then I got a call back for that. That was exciting, but then I didn't hear anything. And then I got called in, and I read for the role of Darlene. So I think Maria was described as Madonna-ish waif with jet black hair. And then the next,
So they brought you in.
So they brought me in, right? Well, you know, the casting director was open, but I did get the call back for it, which was very exciting. And then and I read with Howard Hessman on my callback, and that was incredible. I was just over the moon. You know, I was a big fan of his from WKRP. I couldn't believe I just read with Dr. Johnny Fever, and that same week, I had a call back from my sister Sam, and I read with Pam Dauber. And so I felt like, wow, like this isn't, you know, Mork and Mindy. These are my idols. So then I got called in right to Warner Brothers for the role of Darlene. Cute, black, serious, speech and debate monster.
So
that was her description.
So they called you in.
They called me in. So I read for like 15 executives at Warner Brothers Studios. And out in the waiting room was this like affable guy who seemed nervous. And so I helped him with his lines. His name was Dan Schneider. And so Dan and I sort of rehearsed and read before we went in for the execs. Well, I didn't hear back on the Darlene role. And then I got a call that I had I was going to read for Simone. She was described as a painfully shy wallflower, the poet laureate of the group. And I was going to work with a director. So I met John Tracy, who directed our pilot and initial episodes. I read with him. And then I went to Network, which at the time, I don't know what they do now, but it was in Century City. And in the waiting room was this guy reading for Alan. And so he and I hit it off. And I took him to Disneyland after we read.
Was that Tony?
Matthew Perry.
Oh, Matthew Perry.
Who was reading for Tony's role.
Wow.
And then I invited Matthew. Matthew was devastated that he didn't get to show. I invited him to the pilot taping, which I don't know. I thought that was a nice thing to do. I think in retrospect, it's cool. I didn't know any better. I was just like, well, come. We'll just be a part of it. And then they ended up shooting Friends on stage 5.
Yep.
Our stage. He did not invite me to the pilot taping, just by the way.
Nor any other shows after that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was so fun. And I'd had a long time, in 7th grade, I would stop doing my homework to watch a show called Another World. And I would tell my mom, well, I have to eat. So I would, quote, take my little dinner break and watch Tony O'Dell, who I had a massive crush on, in Another World. So when I showed up at the pilot reading, the table read, Dan Schneider was there. That was fun and cool. And then the guy from Another World, I couldn't believe my luck.
Tony O'Dell.
Whamfy.
Anthony Dell'Aquila.
That's right.
Anthony Dell'Aquila. We had him on. Yeah, I think I got a crush on him myself.
He's crushable. It's kind of unavoidable.
Derek, you should be able. You can't see Derek, but Derek is laughing like crazy. if you only.
So your heart has always been in acting. I mean, even though you started as a model, you knew at 14 or you knew at 17 that acting was the deal. That's where you were going to go.
When I was in 2nd grade, they asked what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I said I wanted to be like my brother. My brother was at Cal Arts at the time. He's 15 years older than me. Yeah. And I had gone to see him in a play with Ed Harris, of all things.
Wow.
And it was just so magnetizing. But he was in film and video. He was just the most creative person I'd ever met or knew. And I just wanted to be like him. But I had talked about the play in the school interview. So when I said, I want to be like my brother Paul, they said, oh, you want to be an actor? Okay. And they wrote that down. And then when I came home, I was maybe 7 years old. My mom always said, how did it go? What did you do? And I said, oh, the thing. And then they said, oh, you want to be an actor? And she said, oh, you want to be an actor? Oh, okay. So it got pinpointed by some school counselor. I was just interested in the creative arts. But as a child, I used to watch the Bob Hope road shows. I was, had a massive crush on Bob Hope. I didn't understand why all the ladies loved Bing when Bob was the funny one. I used to do impressions of Mae West when I was like 3 years old.
Can you do one now?
Oh my God, it's not as cute as when you're 3. You know.
Okay, then save it.
Yes, but and then I loved Fred Astaire. Singing in the Rain was one of my favorite. You know, I'm a product of reruns on television of the old classic films.
Oh yeah.
And so so I loved all that stuff. And then the great highlight in my life was when I got to go on tour with Bob Hope. He took me to the Persian Gulf with Aaron Tippin, Johnny Bench, the Pointer Sisters, Marie Osmond. I had planned on giving Frank crap about this. Every time I went somewhere, I had to bring a baseball and get an autograph for Mr. Pace. So I think I came back with Johnny Bench and Aaron Tippin for you, or one of them, maybe Johnny Bench.
I think Bob Hope.
Maybe Bob Hope. Guys, I know I got President Reagan and President Bush for you.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. I used to do stuff at the White House. Yeah.
You know, when I was 19, when I was 20.
Well, go ahead. Sorry, Billy.
20 years old, I shared the stage with Bob Hope. I can say that as a credit. I shared the stage with Bob Hope. I was on stage with him for 4 seconds or 5 seconds.
What were you doing?
I was in Vietnam in '69 for the Bob Hope show, and of course, I was all excited. Bob Hope, I'm a big fan of the classic movies as well. 30s. So I sit in the first row, and Connie Stevens came out. She was with Bob Hope at the time.
Yes.
And the big hit was "Don't Mess with Bill." She sang, "Don't Mess with Bill."
Okay.
And before she sang it, she said, "Anybody named Bill in the audience, come up on stage." Of course, we're all GIs and
Right.
Connie Stevens, and she's going to plant a kiss on our face. You know,
Yes.
6 or 7 of us named Bill. And I got on stage, and Bob Hope was there, and I got close to Bob Hope. And I remember the thing that really impressed me the most was, wow, he's so old. I said, this guy
I hope you
is
said
really
that out
old.
loud. I hope you looked him square in the eye and said.
But I was on stage for all of 4 seconds, got my kiss from Connie Stevens, and I was happy out, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, that's a highlight.
How
Oh, yeah.
That's
To this day.
incredible.
Big deal.
how did you find Bob Hope?
Like, what was he like?
Yeah, what kind of guy was he?
Amazing. He was he said wonderful things to me. Like, I reminded him of a young Lucille Ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wrote all this
Wow.
down in a journal, like every word Bob Hope said to me. Everything was easy for him. You know, everything was off the cuff. But he was also, even though it was so easy, he was still like so dedicated and so professional, and everything. Rehearsal was serious, and he just loved the soldiers. He really was there to lift their spirits.
Right.
It was a big deal for us. I mean, let me tell you, Khrystyne, thank you from my brothers in the Gulf. Just we had Nam. It was a big deal when you guys came.
Well, and thank
I
you.
mean,
For
we
your
really look
service.
forward to it.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for coming. You served as well, you know?
it
We
was.
also
I
served
was
with Simone.
amazed.
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal.
The ingenuity, the integrity. What I've never felt safer in my life than when I was in the Persian Gulf on some secret base. I could not believe what the Army Corps of Engineers and the Navy and the military had created there. It was stunning. It was, Godsmack.
And I'm sure it was the same in the Gulf as it was in Nam, but they didn't tell us until the day that you guys were coming, and maybe an hour beforehand. Like it just came out of the loudspeaker for security purposes. They just said, by the way, you guys are all familiar with the Bob Hope show. He'll be here in an hour. It was one of them deals. It was last minute, go show up if you're off. And actually, they gave us off. I think they closed down the whole base.
Yeah,
for anybody
go
who
show up
wanted
if
to
you're
go.
off. This should be a national holiday.
But you had the hour or two, for the show. And everybody went. It was great. It was a big deal. So thank you.
Well, my joy, my honor.
And Johnny Bench has become a really good friend of mine.
Has he?
Over the years? Yeah.
Amazing.
He hasn't been on yet, but he'll
get him.
He'll be on soon. He'll be on soon. So the pilot of Head of the Class.
Yes.
What did you feel like? Did you? Of course, you loved the pilot doing it.
Yeah.
But what did you think of it? Did you think you had a chance to be on to get a pickup? And how did you feel when you did get a pickup?
Wow. The great thing about being young and new in the business, I always say if I had known what the odds were, I never would have tried.
Right.
But I was ignorant to how difficult it is to be a working actor, then to get a series you love, you know, because we do work that we're not always proud of, but to do something that you want to, you know, shout from the mountaintops, like, hey, this is great, this is worthwhile, this is fun. So it was a real trifecta, you know, it was all the good stuff. And I think I didn't know.
Right.
And it felt great. The chemistry with the cast was great. The writing was really funny. Everything was current, but if, you know, it's rerunning now on HBO Max, and it still holds.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the pilot of the original Head of the Class was probably one of the best pilots I've ever seen.
Amazing.
So if any of our audience has a chance to watch that pilot and see Khrystyne Haje as the lovely Simone Foster,
painfully shy wallflower, finally got the right character.
It's a brilliant pilot, and Rich Eustace and Michael Elias did a magnificent job, and all of the cast did as well.
Well, we had Michael on. He talked about the diversity, Frank, right? The diversity of how much ahead of its time Head of the Class was.
So ahead of its time with the diversity. You know, we had an East Indian character, which now, you know, would be dumb not to, but we were the only ones. Jawaharlal.
Yep.
And
we had 2 black actresses.
Yes.
We had in the original cast, and later on, we had 4 black actors.
Yep.
We had Devoria White, Rain Pryor joined the cast in season 4. Joined Robin Givens,
right? Kimberly Russell, my best friend.
We had 4 black actors in that class. It was amazing.
And just the representation of also socioeconomic.
Yep.
And you know, one would assume Maria's character was Italian or Spanish. I'm not sure, but you know, the ethnically ambiguous is what everyone's doing now.
Yep.
And so we did, you know, ethnically point on, and then a little bit.
Well, Maria's last name was Borges, so I would imagine she's Spanish. Yeah.
And then Alex
Yep.
Torres.
Right.
I mean, Head of the Class was on it.
We pioneered diversity.
Definitely.
On television. We did that for sure. What were your favorite episodes of the 5 years?
Well, of course. Well, you know, no one's a fan of Russia right now, but at the time during Perestroika under Gorbachev, when we had the opportunity to go to Russia, or you know, the Soviet Union as it was falling down, that was just an amazing experience, because it was an adult field trip where we all got to go together and have that bond, go to a historical place, and then the storylines were so cool. You know, I worked with Sasha Malinin, who's like a huge famous, you know, musician there still, and to go to the grave and to go to Gorky Park.
What was your storyline in that episode?
Well, I mean, the general thing was that we had won an academic competition, and the final was against the Russians in Russia. And so that's why we were traveling there. But we were the first episodic ever to go to Russia. The films had gone. I think maybe a James Bond had shot in Red Square or something, but no television show had gone. So that was groundbreaking. And things were different, so different than they are now. You had to shop at the Berioska. You know, there wasn't a mall. There was no McDonald's. You know, food was scarce. We had a real experience. Remember going to restaurants? There'd be all the tables were available, and they would say reservation, and you say, no, but it's just the 3 of us. Not possible. Like, there's 70 tables available. Could you just see this? Yet. Be like, what we didn't realize is that they didn't have food. If you didn't have a reservation, they did not have enough food in the kitchen for you. So they couldn't seat you. It's not like LA where all the tables are full.
And when we did get seated, the tablecloths were wet.
Yeah. And the food was mystery. You would point to something on the menu. Yet. Be like, okay, well, I'll have this. Not possible. Could you bring me the food that you have? You know, and that's what you would be served. It was silly to order from the menu. They just didn't have it.
Yeah, I remember one day we were trying to get lunch for everybody, and I would talk. Sasha Cart was our liaison at the time, and he says, we got meat for you, good meat. And I said, what is it? He said, good meat, good meat. I said, Sasha, can you be a little bit more specific? He says, we have good meat. We got liver.
Wow.
Yeah. So we went to another place.
That's fantastic. Those empty tables. Sorry, we can't serve you because they didn't have the food. That's unbelievable.
As an American, you'd never dawns on you. You know, and they didn't have, our grocery stores are huge, and they had nothing like that. I remember we went to the farmer's market. One of the local actors that was hired to be, you know, on the Russian debate team or the academic team, befriended us and brought us to a farmer's market, and a tiny little thing of grapes was like $15, the equivalent of 15. And we thought, like, oh my God, you know, it just the scarcity was shocking.
Yeah, I didn't visit that farmer's market, but Alan Rosen took a camera and you out, and they did a montage we set to Back in the USSR, which was sung by David Pomerantz and Sasha Malinin.
Yes.
And it was great. It was a terrific montage.
Sasha Malinin was incredible. And he took my family under. So I always brought my family.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, to the producer's chagrin, you know, I would get a fancy ticket, airline ticket, and I would break it down to 5 coach tickets or whatever and bring the whole family. So I was like, well, we're sharing the room. It's not really costing you guys anything. And they were tolerant because I was still a teenager. But I would brought my mom, 2 of my brothers, and my niece. And I think she was maybe
Moscow.
8 or 9 years old. Yeah, and that was an incredible experience for her. She went to one of the schools at we paired her off with a kid her age, and she went to that girls' school.
And the schools were pretty good.
Yeah. But so that obviously as a whole experience is one of my highlights in life. And then as far as straight up episodes go,
But you wanted to visit Chekhov's grave? Was it Chekhov's grave?
Yes. I'm not sure if it was. I'm not sure whose grave it was, but we did go to the cemetery, and I went to see a famous poet or playwright. And I think that's where I met Sasha.
So you met Sasha, and he was
playing the guitar.
He was playing the guitar,
and he seduced
sang
me.
to you.
Yes, he was so lovely.
He was. And other episodes.
There's the first kiss where Brian and I, Eric Marty and the character Brian Robbins and I kiss, and it's still intense and feels very like coming of age. And you know, in the 80s, those films were of that. It's the innocent track of that version. And so that felt like important at the time, I guess, to me. And there was an episode that was the producers and writers would do their best to highlight the different characters. So we'd all get, quote, an episode or 2 where we were the primary person in the storyline. As it's hard with an ensemble cast like that, especially Dan Schneider, Dan Frischman, and Brian carried a lot of the comedy, and Frischman is so funny, and you know, he and Dan, the comedy stylings, you know, so they would get a lot of the comedy meat, but you know, you'd want your own storyline. So anyway, there was one where I wrote to a poet that I admired, and he criticized my work right before he died, and it was just a very funny episode and fun to go to his. Basically, we went to his memorial, and he was horrible to everyone. And there was a line in it that was like, now I'm having trouble remembering it, but the line always stuck with me.
The line that always stuck to you that you can't
remember now. Yeah, it was problem from a.
Take it up into the Pope.
Yeah,
take it up into the Pope.
It'll come to me.
I'm still trying to get over the fact that you had the acumen to go to Anton Chekhov's grave. I think I don't know if I would have been doing that in Moscow, but it's admirable anyway.
Well, when I'd lived in Paris, I'd gone to the famous cemetery there to see people. it's maybe kind of weird and morbid. I don't know, but it's their living.
I
It's the
think it's-
memorial at the time.
Right.
So I had done it in my own life. I had gone to see. There's some famous statues there in the cemetery in Paris.
Billy's just referring to his different motivations. That's all.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, different motivations, but also it's admirable. I think that you go to see Anton Chekhov's grave over in Moscow. It's something that wouldn't have dawned on me, but I think it's pretty cool.
Well, the writers wrote it for me. I can't take full credit. I just learned my lines and stood on my mark. But I had done a version in real life.
So
pretty cool.
Head of the Class wraps up in 1991.
Yep.
1991.
Yes.
Then it's on to a lot of other things, one of which was Spaceship Earth, a global environment, which you won an Emmy for. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that project?
Well, I was fortunately raised in a very environmentally aware family. I used to say I was crushing cans and recycling them as soon as I weighed enough to crush one.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, when I was 5 years old, told me we couldn't eat tuna anymore. And I didn't understand it, but she said they were killing dolphins when they fished the tuna. This was way before, quote, dolphin safe.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was super environmentally aware, and she instilled that in me. And when I moved to New York, one of my friends there said that I was saving the world one flower petal at a time because I, compost, even in the city. I was like, oh, you can't throw that away. Well, that'll end up in the landfill. We have to donate that. Well, that could be recycled. So Spaceship Earth was just a natural next step. I mean, it was still an audition and a role, but it was an educational piece largely just about our planet and the pollution and what was happening and what we could do to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And it was early enough that if we had done it then, we wouldn't be in such dire straits that we are now. But
Incredible.
yeah.
And then in I got my notes here, 1991, you were voted to the first edition of People magazine's 50 Most Beautiful People in the World.
I have 4 older brothers, and they really loved that. They felt so. I'm the only girl, and they felt like it gave them some type of genetic stock. Everyone would want to have their babies. Yes. You take all that stuff with a grain of salt. I was great. I had fun. We shot in Arizona. Sorry. The People magazine flew me out to Arizona to film. I love to travel. I love adventure. And the photographer was neat. The makeup artist was amazing. Turned out she was Michael Jackson's makeup artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had wild stories. And, but yeah, it was fun and totally an honor. And it was the first episode, and they gave in the first issue, they gave me the centerfold, but it was all face and hair. I've always been a hair and face girl more than a body girl. So, and yeah, it just was surreal, I would say. You can't really let anything like that
go to your head.
Yeah, land on you.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
Who else was in that group of 50?
Michelle Pfeiffer was on the cover.
So she was the most beautiful person?
She was, there's no ranking.
Oh.
It's just that so it's, I could have been 49. I could have been number 2. We don't know.
Well, I got a flash for you.
Yes.
You know who was number 51?
Billy.
Oh, yeah. I've always been a nose and face guy myself. I was telling Frank, if they had a museum for noses, I'd be the Mona Lisa. Look at that star.
It's gorgeous. It's a perfect specimen of a nose.
My longest appendage. I'm very proud of it.
No comment.
The lips are sealed.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
That's terrific, though. So here you are. I mean, you talk about how your mom is very eco-friendly, very aware of the environment.
Right.
But I mean, you're dragging her to Paris at 14. You're taking her to Moscow at 18. God bless her. She got to travel and see the world. It does a lot on your coattails as well as us.
Well, I mean, we did have great adventures, and so the oldest boy is 15 years older than me, and the youngest is 11. So by the time I was acting and doing adventures, she didn't have to take care of other children. So she and I could just go on these great adventures.
Fantastic.
And I felt like the going to Paris at 14, I don't know for everybody, but for me, that 13, 14 is a real time of separating from the parent. But because we were alone in Paris, neither one of us spoke French. I was trying to learn French there. I would have to go on, they're called go-sees, like you go see the client and show them your pictures and you get hired or not. But I was, taking the metro around Paris. I had a ton of independence, but also it was just me and mom in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of separating out, we bonded and became very close friends. And she was able to bridge the parent/friend. Now, interestingly enough, I felt like the older I got, the less freedom. Like she started to get really nervous, in the head of the class years and afterwards, very protective. And she was protective of me as a model, which was absolutely necessary. I completely would have been preyed on in bad ways if she hadn't been Mama Bear. And I, again, was clueless. I would say like, hey, Mom, they invited all these models to this guy's house and we're going to take a boat and it's on an island. So I was going to go. And she was like, you won't be going. Like, oh, but they seem really nice and other girls are going. She's like, yeah, no, you won't be going to that. And I was like, but they have really good food. And she said, well, we'll go to your favorite, she would take me to my favorite restaurant instead.
Well, at the height of popularity when Head of the Class was on, you were extremely desirous. You had all of America salivating over that redhead with the voluptuous long hair and the shy, innocent girl. And
I kept very innocent. My mom's very strict Roman Catholic. My father's family is Greek Orthodox. So I come from very sort of strict upbringing. And my innocence was of ultimate importance to my mom. I had done a film strip when I said I wanted to be an actor in second grade. I ended up doing a film strip for the school. And my mom lost her mind because they had to do a reshoot because on one of the days you could see through my dress. So you could see the outline of my undergarments. Mm-hmm. And it was total. And then they put mascara on. As a redhead, my lashes are a red kind of blonde. And they put mascara on. They put mascara on her 8-year-old. She just lost it. And she was like, nope, you won't be doing this anymore. I mean, I finished the movie. I did the film strip. But then there was no more acting until I was older. Yeah.
Oh, I understand your mother's concern. I'm a recovering Catholic as well.
Well, there you go.
But your parents are Lebanese and Czech? That's an odd combination.
My mom is Polish and Slovakian, first generation American. She's born in Pittsburgh. And then she was great adventurer. That is her. She used to say she was like the bear who went over the mountain to see what he could see or she could see in this. So she did, she was working on her thesis, The World's Great Religions, and she did a round the world tour. And she met my father in Beirut in like 1949.
And I noticed your middle name is Camille, Kamil.
That's right.
But you were telling me before we started, while we were waiting for Billy to get a monkeypox vaccination,
right?
That Camille, Kamil, was actually your father's name, and your all 4 brothers have the same middle name?
That's right. So in the Arabic tradition, it is Khrystyne, daughter of Camille Haje.
Paul.
Richard, son of Camille Haje. So all 5 of us have the same middle name, which is my father's first name, Camille. But when people ask me my middle name and I say Camille, I think in their minds they see the French spelling, which I also really love. So I get the benefit of both.
So I read in People magazine someplace that you are a quarter owner of a Silicon Valley company worth $500 million. Now, please explain that.
It doesn't exist anymore.
No. Cool.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
Very cool.
I think there was there was a moment in time before the bubble burst when things in the Silicon Valley were worth a lot of money. I did not get to realize that. But yes,
But it happened.
Yeah, I mean, it happened without me getting any benefit of it, if that makes any sense.
Oh, wow.
You know,
So
it's like Bitcoin. You know, like you have the money, you don't have the money. If you don't get to realize it,
you don't
one of
really
my
have
friends said, "Money doesn't mean anything until you spend it." And I thought,
Or you cash out. Or you cash
right?
out.
Yeah, but it's just like, you know, black and white numbers on a page. It doesn't mean anything, and then it also all disappears.
Yeah, it's sort of like Billy's money.
Oh, Billy.
And I invested my money wisely.
Yeah.
You know.
Booze and
Booze,
alcohol.
gambling, and women. And I blew the rest.
done.
That's right. And then I blew the rest.
To that note, so I went to volunteer I'd always wanted to go to Africa, and I had an opportunity to go to a microfinance summit in Nairobi. And I met with Muhammad Yunus, who started those microloans to women in villages so they could, you know, pull up their village and their family. But what I found, the takeaway was that they had started it with men. But when they loaned the men money, the men spent it on gambling, women, and alcohol. And when they loaned the money to the women, they spent it on their family. They bought cloth, which they dyed, and then they sold at the market, or they bought cane and they built stools and they sold it at the market. And so they stopped the program with the men and only did it with the women.
Well, Billy and I are both in agreement on one thing, that women should be running this
Without
country,
a doubt.
and if not the world, because, you know,
They couldn't screw it up any more than we did. That's for sure. That's for damn sure.
absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well,
Vote for
without a
women.
doubt.
And
Yeah, without a doubt.
in 2012, you went on to have your hair cut.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that must have been for Donate Your Hair Day for, appropriately enough, Women for Cancer, which we're going to get to that story in a second.
Sure.
But how did you decide to donate your hair?
Well, I had always wanted, I tried to look at my hair as a renewable resource, and I had heard about Locks of Love, where you could cut your hair and donate it. And they needed a certain amount, and I always felt like I didn't, you know, I still needed some hair. I felt like, oh, I didn't have that much. And then, but I kept looking into it, and I had done a commercial for Pantene in the 90s. I did, you know, condition my hair every day. But I use Pantene Pro V, whatever it was. And I was a fan of the product, and they started something called Beautiful Lengths. And so you could cut your hair and donate it, and they would give it to women who were going through cancer or other treatments where they lost their hair. And it seemed like Locks of Love mostly gave to children, which is great. And they had a lot of kids donate. But I felt like, you know, as soon as you're over 40 in America, it's, as a woman, you go through a lot. And then to have any kind of diagnosis, it's not fair. It's just not fair. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do the Beautiful Lengths. And I was trying to donate a foot of hair. I was able to give 11 inches. And then they had me go on Rachel Ray. And I think it was sort of Pantene's kickoff for their hair donation program, so that at any salon you could also get your hair cut and donate it. The hairstylist or whatever can send it in. So it's human hair, which is more comfortable and breathes better, and et cetera, for people going through treatments where they lose their hair. And then I did it the next 2 years later. I was able to grow another foot of hair, if you can imagine. And it might have been, again, 11-ish inches, but the foot was always the goal. And my hair's really thick. Redheads has nothing to do with me, but genetically, redheads have more hair on their head than other colors. Wow. So it's a lot of hair.
And then in 2000,
sounds so superficial.
And
but
then
yes.
in 2015, you yourself were diagnosed with breast cancer.
I was, yes. And then I was actually going to cut my hair and donate it. And my oncologist said, you know, keep it for yourself. You might need it. And I thought, well, I never. So I had estrogen. It's called estrogen fed breast cancer. And so one of the things they do is they give you medication that blocks your estrogen.
But you were given 2 years to live.
2 years to live.
Well, because it was metastatic when we found it. So if you catch it early, that's a different thing. But anyway, the great news with the bad news, cancer, is that they keep finding new things and they keep developing new things. So even at the time, I did not take that diagnosis to heart. I said, yeah, I just have to live long enough until they figure out the next thing. Because
what an attitude.
They keep, as long as I can survive until the immunotherapy or the vaccine or the other treatment or the chiro, something like there, all these things I don't yet know about that they're working on. I know they're out there. So I just have to keep myself healthy and enough to be able to have that treatment. And so far, so good. But I didn't cut my hair again because one of the things I did was the estrogen blocking, and estrogen is a lot responsible for growing hair. And I was very superficially afraid that if I cut it, it wouldn't grow back the same way.
And didn't you tell me that a lot of the red went out of your hair?
It did. I took another medication that reduces inflammation, and it has a lot of melanin in it, which is like what makes us tan. So I did get tan. It was the first summer I didn't get sunburn. It was really kind of exciting. But it also upped it's called eumelin, which is responsible for your hair color, and it made me more of a brunette.
That's a shame. But
I was like, I still have the hair. I could dye it, I guess. But I'm uncomfortable with that. I'm all for everyone else doing anything they want. But
yes.
I worry about the chemicals and the smell and the thing. And I just figured.
What a fantastic attitude, though, being told you had 2 years to live and saying, well, all I got to do is outlive until they come up with a new thing to beat this.
That's right.
Me? They tell me I got 2 years to live. My idea of beating this, well, I'll show them. I get a bottle of Jack and a bag of smack, and I'll be dead in a week.
I like that it rhymes, Billy. That you managed to turn that into a poem about quick death is very impressive.
I'll show them. I'll be out here 24 hours. I don't need them. 2 years.
And then you did an ad for Verzinio in 2018, which was a breast cancer medication.
Yeah.
That was a pretty popular ad too, wasn't it?
I mean, as far as I know, like they're great, and they were great to work with. Everyone, from the ad agency and to the client themselves. Like it was a spectacular experience. And they're like, you're the actress in this. You're quote, not just the actress,
right.
But they really were. They're a first class company, very compassionate, and obviously it meant something to me.
Yeah, and I know you've starred in my friend Billy and Jane's play.
Yes, You've Got Hate Mail.
You've Got Hate Mail, and then Jane got cancer, and you were very instrumental in her treatment until she passed.
You know that?
Because Billy told me.
Oh, I love Jane Milmore. She is a great love of my life, and so the sucky thing about harsh diagnoses, or when someone gets ill and it's in a life-changing way, there's a lot of downsides. What I have found the upside is the growth in the personal relationships. Mm-hmm. Like when you are a part of someone's wellness journey, wherever it goes, there's an intimacy and a bond that's created that you just don't get otherwise. There's a trust, and I'm going to cry because I love that Jane so much. And she shared so much of herself with me in a way that would not have happened like just doing her play.
Yeah.
And you get to see the heart and the spirit, the tenacity and the compassion of someone in a way that, at least in our culture, we're mostly trained not to care, right? Or to act like we don't care, or to play it cool. And you get hit with something serious and you're looking to overcome it. You gotta fucking care. Mm-hmm. Pardon my language.
Yeah,
And then the people that mean something to you, you let them know. And that's the prize of helping anybody.
Well, you're one of those people.
This was supposed to be funny, and I'm crying. I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's
I'll take those 3 words. Podcast. I'll take those 3 words as one of the best 3 words I heard, and we've done 100 podcasts now. Let them know.
Let them know.
Let them know.
Let them know. And that's
Take that away.
the terrible thing about a serious diagnosis is it's, it's terrible, but it's a weird heads up to it's an empowerment card, really, to check out your life, check out the people in your life, check out how you're spending your time, and see if that's what you want. And then really focus on that which, those experiences that you want to have and the people that you want to have and the love that you want to share.
Billy, let me ask you a question. Do you know who Wally Pipp is?
Sure.
Who is he?
Wally Pipp was a first baseman for the Yankees, correct?
Until what? What?
Until Lou Gehrig came along, and he was sick one day, and Lou Gehrig went on to set the record for the most appearances by any baseball player in history, consecutive, until he was broken later on by the Oriole.
And do you know what it means to be Wally Pipped? You were pipped?
Yeah, it's like I imagine it's like being the standby on Broadway, and when the star goes down, you come on, and she never gets another shot.
All right. Well, you've been Wally Pipped. Because from now on, Khrystyne's going to be a co-host, and you're out.
Listen, I got no bones with that at all. As soon as she said, you only got a certain amount of time left, pick your friends, I think, well, that's the end of Frank. I'm not wasting my time with this book. I gotta get out of here. Where's that jacket? That stuff? Let me put it into it.
I can't think of a better note to end on than Wally Pipp. Can you get him out and put on our logo?
No.
Let them know, Frank. Let them know.
Let them know. We love you, Billy.
Words to live
Love
by.
you too. It's a pleasure
Frank-
to know you, Khrystyne.
Frank
Pleasure to meet you.
No,
So nice to
get
meet
him
you.
out of here. We're
I
done
thought
with
you
him.
did. He's
You've
kidding.
been pipped.
Khrystyne.
He's Wally pipping me.
You gotta get a
So,
picture of me
Khrystyne,
up there.
We've got to come up with something to substitute for a Mick. A word that starts with an M. Well, we'll work on that. In the meantime, thank you so much for being on.
It's my pleasure. I do love you, Frank. You're such a huge part of a really important, formative, beautiful time in my life. I'm so grateful for our ongoing friendship.
Well, thank you. And Billy, you can come back now.
Yeah, we missed you.
Khrystyne, you already got the role. You're already going to be here for the next. I'm out already. You don't have to worry about it.
Say goodnight, Billy.
Good night, Billy.
Say goodnight, Khrystyne.
Good night, Khrystyne.
Say goodnight, Derek.
Adios, amigos.
Adios, indeed.
My bilingual friend. Take care, all. Great meeting you.
Great
Bye.
meeting you. Bye-bye.
Next week's guest, baseball mega agent John Boggs.
We'll see you next week.